I alluded to Roald Dahl moments ago, and the power and the potency of what you read in your earlier years can really shape your reading life ahead. Not only rereading those books, but certain of those books are then extrapolated further. And our next reader, reading from Silver, which is his follow-on, his sequel to Treasure Island. If you feel like giving me a lifetime of devotion, I give you Sir Andrew Motion. Sorry, I'm personally very fond of him.
He thinks poetry is still written in rhyme. We don't know when Treasure Island is set. Robert Louis Stevenson says 17 blank blank is the date, but the Stevenson scholars reckon it's in the early 1760s. So it's a pre-Enlightenment story. In Silver, it's 1801, and it's the children that go back to the island. Jim Hawkins, the son of Jim Hawkins, and Natty Silver, who's the daughter of Mr. Silver and his wife, who's mentioned but never met in Treasure Island, a woman of colour. She's described as being, so presumably somebody he met, Mr. Silver met in the Caribbean on some previous trip. In order to launch the expedition to get the silver that Stevenson tells us on the first page of Treasure Island is still on the island, Mr. Silver commissions a boat. He's not going himself, but he commissions a boat. And in order to launch it on its expedition, Jim, my Jim, has to betray his father, the original Jim, by stealing the map from his father. And he does that, and off they go. And as they sail down the Thames, they pass the inn in which my Jim was raised by his father, which of course is called a Hispaniola. Captain Beamish now ordered the crew to set us on our way. They did this immediately, with some men untying the Nightingale fore and aft, then pushing us away from the quay with long poles, and others working the capstan to raise our anchor, chanting as they did so. "Haul away, you sons of Neptune, haul away. Say goodbye to all your lassies, haul away. For we're leaving dear old England, and we're bound across the waves. Haul away, you sons of Neptune, haul away." They sang this 3 or 4 times, and when the work was done, we were already a yard from the dockside. The crew fore and aft now laid their poles on deck and began setting the sails, which took the breeze with a delightful, clean, smacking sound. So I felt the Nightingale quicken like a living creature. Have a care," shouted the captain, as the booms of both masts swung across deck. But the hands knew how to dodge, and in a trice everything was under control again, and we were making our way towards the river. As we found our place among the traffic heading downstream, I noticed the water made a beautiful, low, humming sound. This was our prow talking, as sailors say, treading the innumerable ripples with an incessant, weltering splash. The waterfront of London quickly vanished, docks and warehouses turning into open country, and a panorama of fields and cattle, until we reached the fancy houses of Greenwich and the little mole of the observatory. I'd seen these things only recently, rowing to and fro with Natty, but from the greater height of the Nightingale, and with a stronger feeling of purpose that now possessed me, they had an extra freshness and significance. Everything told me that I was leaving my boyhood, that I was choosing the terms of my own existence. These feelings, I dare say, were all the more intense because Natty stood beside me. At any rate, I gave this as the reason why tears swelled into my eyes as we entered a bend of the river that I recognized as the beginning of my home stretch. It was a remarkable moment, even though it came so early in our voyage. With the blackened old timbers of the Hispaniola and the low red sweep of its tiled roof appearing on the horizon, as if I were returning to it as a ghost. It put me in mind of a sentence I remembered my father using in his stories, which he heard used of the pirate O'Brien, whom he called a rank Irelander. Do you take it as a dead man is dead for good? Or do we come again? I saw in minute detail the dozens of winding tracks I had walked since childhood, and remembered in a single instant the hundreds of lives I had seen there, the moorhens and geese, the summer visitors, and the foxes that preyed on them. It was an immense variety, but all squeezed into something like a keyhole, and set my heart racing, because I knew it was passing away from me, even while it came close. Exactly when we reached the inn, as if it had been ordained by fate, the front door opened, and my father appeared. He was wearing the old blue sailor's cap he had kept as a memento of earlier days, and carried in his right hand a pail of water. My first instinct was to duck below the bulwarks out of sight, but I thought this might draw his attention, so I stood still, without making a sound, and watched him. He walked towards the bed of roses that formed the border of our property, where it met the towpath, and poured his pail of water over the flowers, very studiously, making sure not to miss one. I saw the earth darken. Then he straightened, his free hand smoothing the small of his back, and glanced around him. Although he looked directly at the nightingale and seemed to admire her, he did not change his expression, which to my eyes had a sad severity. Then he turned away with a shrug, and after that, I saw him no more.